All right, high rollers. Today's guest, a guy who has attended and played at the highly secretive Blackjack Ball in Las Vegas. He was an advantage player slash manager with the infamous MIT Blackjack teams. He's a gaming mathematician, and now he's heading up a new consulting firm, a team that boasts some of the best and brightest minds in gaming today. Nicholas Cologne, welcome back to the show, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Derek. Good to be back.
I want you to tell us about the Alea Consulting Group. You guys are trying to help operators, casino resorts, brick and mortars, etc., drive revenue, right, by enhancing the player experience?
That's absolutely correct. For those who don't know, the casino gaming, particularly in Las Vegas and to some extent in Canada as well, has seen a massive decline over the last decade or so. Revenues tanking off the chart, which peaked around a net loss of almost $7 billion. That's B with a billion in 2009. So we're trying to get operators to view things from a player's perspective rather than just a strict financial monetization aspect.
Well, I'm wondering what are some of the reasons why this drop off in gaming. I know that when you go to the casino nowadays, you got to pay $20 for parking. You got to pay certain things that you never had to pay before. I mean, they just nickel and dime you.
That's absolutely correct. Those are some, but I've done some consulting for a variety of organizations, and we evaluated 10 years of data for some particular companies and found out that the primary concern among players is that just the value isn't there anymore. For example, they're putting in a lot of technology that tends to be more economical for the casino. For example, those ticket in, ticket out things that you see at the slot machines. Are you familiar with those?
Absolutely, yes.
So you put those tickets in, and you take them out, and then you can move from slot machine to slot machine, and it expedites the payout process for the player. As before, where you would have to call an attendant or just press the button or wait in line. But what we mean by value is that, say you would play $100, you would play $100, and maybe that would last you. You would be in a casino for an hour and a half. Now, with the expedited technology, along with some other things, you're actually being in the casino for only about 40 minutes. So you're losing about a third of your value. So people are spending the same amount of money, but for less entertainment.
So you're trying to bring entertainment back. So when you look at a casino resort, there are all aspects that are involved in this, right? And that's what you're doing. You're looking at all aspects of that operation.
Correct. We're doing a 360 degree view of the casino operations, and we're more to the point of increasing value to the player. For any player who's been out there, I know this is especially true in some poker rooms. That you have to play 10, 12 hours for $7 or $8 in comps, and it's just exhausting because you may be losing money with the rake that they're taking, and you might lose the win at the table, but you're also just not getting any compensation or value for your play.
Well, when you look at Vegas in the heyday, right, with the 99-cent buffet and all the comps in the world, that's one thing that a lot of people talk about nowadays is that you just don't get any comps anymore. Nothing worthwhile anyway.
That's exactly true. And the reason for that is back, like you said, in the day when Vegas was in its heyday, their main objective was to bring in gamblers. And that what drove the revenue, players. Now, with the shift from a gaming revenue source of income to a non-gaming revenue source, where you see like clubs and where you see concerts and where you see shopping malls, a lot of that is what they call non-gaming revenue. And that currently accounts for about 65% of a resort's revenue stream, as opposed to the 35% they would get from the gaming revenue currently. And before, it was almost all gaming revenue.
Now, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. You talked about the average length of time that a slot machine player might stay, an hour and a half. With the expedited thing now, it's 45 minutes. Is that not a good thing for the player? I mean, a lot of people worry about responsible gambling and that sort of thing. So if they're in the casino shorter amounts of time, isn't that a good thing? I mean, for the player, it might be.
Well, I think for you and I both know that gamblers are not exactly the most rational creatures. So I said that's one aspect of this technology. And some people, I could see that argument that it would be beneficial. But another complex aspect of that is before, the traditional slot machine prior to 2000 was a traditional 3-coin slot machine, 3-wheel, the 777. I'm sure
Right.
you're familiar with those, right?
Yep, yep.
So that average wager was about 75 cents per player, and they would spin that and play their time there. And currently, in the post 2000 world, where there was just so much money available after the dot-com boom and the subsequent real estate bubbles that we experienced in the year 2000s, that these gaming companies were looking for ways to drive already great revenues. And when I hear this, I think of Gordon Gekko's Wall Street movie, the phrase "greed is good." So they had good revenues, but they wanted more and more and more. So what they did was they went from the traditional 3-coin slot machines to a nickel slot machine, which is 5 cents times 18 lines. Those multi-credit, multi-line games. Are you familiar with those, Derek?
Yeah, they're too confusing for me, but yeah, I see them all the time.
So you play, you think you're at a nickel machine, but really you're going from a 75-cent wager to a 5 by 18, which is a 90% wager. And traditional aspects in casino gaming was when you go from a higher denomination to a lower denomination, in order to compensate for that, the casino's hold percentage goes up. So if you run the math on this, just taking an average player, 2 hours a shot times, 2 times a week with, 1,200 spins per session, I think the net loss is like $720 for the 3-coin, and then for the 18 by 5, it's like a 930. So it's approximately a 20% decrease in value to the player, and by that I mean they're losing more money for the same amount of time. When that happens, the players just get disgusted, and those losses over time, combined with the lower comp rate, is just too much for the players to handle. Now, the argument that the casinos make is they're making more money for that initial bump. So for every multi-line, multi-credit machine that these casinos have on the floor, in the first 3 months or so, they'll see an initial bump because the players are spending more money there. But when the losses accumulate time and time again, those rates rapidly fall to their original, and then sometimes, more often than not, they go below their original baseline. So they're actually losing money in the end.
It's interesting, I play poker a lot, and sometimes when you lose, you could be in there an hour and get stacked and say, "That's it, I've had enough." You walk out and you really feel down. It's like, what did I do? I just wasted an hour. I lost some money. And then there's a different type of loss. Say on a Friday night when the casino is hopping, there's a live band playing, people are, drinking and having fun. The atmosphere is electric, and you might get stacked that night too, but you leave with a different feeling. Like, yeah, I lost, but I had a good time too.
That's exactly true. And we are covering, that's just one aspect of it. We're covering all sorts of aspects of playing, from how to keep their customer, how to gain customers. What is your games doing? What kind of games should you bring in? How is your comp system structured? And for your listeners, I think a good aspect would be we actually do a lot of poker cheating detection that you see within poker rooms. And a lot of people don't think this is a problem, but during my time at the WSOP, I mean, just walking the floors at some of the major casinos, I see it.
Really? You can
Yes,
you can bird dog the cheats that easily. You just walk by, you spot it right away.
yeah, I mean, you got to know what to look for, but they are definitely there. I think I've come across at least 4 or 5 cheats in the poker rooms of major Las Vegas casinos.
Wow. See, now, if you're a player on the square, you would love it when a casino spots a cheat and kicks them out, right? And that enhances your experience too.
That's 100%. But the casinos don't care because they perceive it as not their money. Now, I've had meetings at high levels with executive vice presidents of some people, particularly at the Venetian, who I told them this is what's going on, and they just don't seem to care. It's not a primary concern of theirs. It's understanding that doesn't happen all the time, and you're usually not going to see it at a 1-2 game, but you will definitely see it at a 5-10 and 10-20 games.
So as the stakes get higher, there's more prevalence of cheating.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, because there's more money on the line.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it comes in all forms. It comes from collusion between players, dealer mechanics, and sometimes the dealers and the floor people are even in on it.
Wow.
So, yeah, and for any of your listeners, I urge you, if you're ever in Las Vegas, go to the lead library, the UNLV Gaming Research Center, and check out from the audio-visual Steve Forte's Detection Cheating. It is a must view for any serious gambler, poker players specifically.
And that's at the UNLV library?
Yes, the lead library at the Gaming Audio and Visual Center, which, by the way, is the most complete collection of gaming text anywhere in the world, headed by my good friend, Dr. David Schwartz.
Wow, interesting. I didn't know that. You talked about this decline in overall gaming since 2009. I'm wondering, how much of a role does competition play in that? I mean, there's so many casinos nowadays. Every street corner seems to have one, or at least every city.
Well, they do have them, and it's actually from 2001. 2009 was actually the peak of the losses. But to your point, competition does play a role, but to the point of where you think that casinos would compete, between players, but they really don't. Once one casino does it, what's some absurd tactic like charging for parking, like MGM is doing. I mean, Tropicana is doing it now. Caesars is probably going to be charging for alcoholic beverages at the bars. I know MGM charges for alcoholic beverages at the bar
There's
area.
something wrong about. There's something just plain wrong about that, isn't there?
I agree 100%. There is no value there. I mean, they're just losing country. You're going to tick people off, and people will not come back. I always say this: if you win at a casino, because players will come back and they will tell their friends. But if you lose at a casino time and time again, players will not come back, and again, they're going to tell their friends.
Right.
So it seems to the point of that you have to compensate the players in some way, but these companies are so poorly managed. They're probably the worst managed companies in any industry. You've got two management firms at the MGM, one running the company and the other trying to keep them out of bankruptcy. Caesars Entertainment had a debt to equity ratio late last year of 400 to 1. But the way they can get away with this is, any other company would be insolvent by then. But their cash flow is so high, and they keep spending and buying things and expanding. And there's a great line in the book, Beat the Dealer by Donald Trump, who recently won the United States presidential election, that says, if you owe the banks a little bit of money, the bank owns you. But if you owe the bank a whole lot of money, then you own the bank. So what these companies are doing, specifically Caesars, is they're continuing to take on debt, so much so that they can dictate the terms of how they pay it back. And it's a win for them, and they don't have to answer to anybody.
Wow, this is fascinating. So I'm wondering, on the website, it says that you guys will not consult on advantage play detection. First of all, why? And second of all, I guess that's an important requirement for you, being a card counting blackjack expert.
Yeah, we don't consult on any aspect of advantage play because, first of all, we think it's legal, and if they're giving you information, you should be able to exploit that information any way you see fit. It's not cheating. The Nevada Supreme Court has ruled it's not cheating, so we will not consult on methods of attack for a casino. Not at all.
So you think that if a player like yourself does the work, puts in the hours, learns how to count the cards, learns how to deal with all the distractions, learns how to put it all together, that's fair play?
That is 100% fair play. And just to be understanding, card counting is just one of the most basic concepts. And if your security personnel, your surveillance can't catch a 1 to 15 spread on a blackjack table, which is what it takes to get like a 1.5% advantage over time, then they should find a different profession. Because if a guy's Ben Affleck, the genius that he is, walked into the Hard Rock a couple years ago and bet one hand of 100 and then three hands of $20,000. I mean, if you can't catch that, then you're an idiot. Then you need to go out and bury yourself in a hole in the desert.
That's the key, right? You wait till the count is right, and then you put the big bets out there.
For that particular play, yes. But I mean, I did a study on this. Something like only 1 in 47,000 people has the ability and patience and put in the work to count, and only 10% of those people have the necessary bankroll to withstand the legal swing, the swings that you're inevitably going to go through. So let's take Tropicana for example. They had 5 million people walk through their casinos last year. So 1 in 47,000. You do that, and then you do the 10%. So you're looking at we can actually do the math on that. Would be 5 million divided by 47,000. Which is 106 people times 10%. So you're looking only at 10 and a half people that can beat you. Let's say 11 people to round up for whole numbers. So are you going to go ahead and sacrifice all that revenue by half-shoeing people and doing all that? You're going to lose, hundreds of thousands of dollars for that. For every For every additional round that a blackjack table deals in blackjack, the net profit over the year is about $120,000.
Hmm.
So for each additional round that they deal, they make an additional $120,000. So why would you go ahead and reduce the time of playing by reducing where the cut card is placed, and you're going to cause more shuffles, and that's wasted time. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Really interesting stuff, folks. You can tell why he is one of the best blackjack players in the world. We're on the line with Nicholas Cologne. All right, talk about star power. I mean, you guys have assembled quite a team. Anthony Curtis, he's one of the leading names in the gaming world. Stanford Wong, author of Professional Blackjack. You've got Michael Shackelford, the Wizard of Oz. You guys got some big names. I mean, the best and the brightest, right?
Yeah, we did. And I put this together probably shortly after the gaming. This was always in the back of my mind. And a lot of guys like Henry Tambrin and myself and John Groskanowski and Mike Shackelford. And we always had this idea to do this, but no one really wanted to go ahead and put in the effort. So I said, what the hell, one day I just had the website designed, threw it up, started making calls, and with that, people started responding. So we're in good shape right now. We're still in the process of building our clientele, but in order to go ahead and have people take us seriously, we thought it would be better for a combination of these great and talented people.
You've got Blair Rodman. He's a poker player. Also,
Yeah.
Rick Knight, Train Blaine.
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering about game design. You go to a casino and game selection, really, the primaries have been static. I mean, you've got blackjack, you've got all the key games there, right? Are new games entering the casino all the time? Or are those the main games, craps and roulette and those sorts of things that people keep playing?
Yes and no. The games people are always coming up with new games, at least table games, because table games are easy to do and, the rules are there. There's essentially 5 models for slot games. And I developed the mathematical models for 2 of them. So I basically own 40% of the patents out there regarding the new games. Now, these are very new, and people aren't, well, I don't know if they're not being lured to play them, but they are still in their infancy. I mean, if you look at the product curve in any business book, I mean, the first year or two is actually pretty shallow. Then it pops up and goes steeper a little bit. But the problem with these games right now, these slot games, these multi-credit, multi-line devices, well, they're all the same. The experience is consistent with every other game. And the way they get away with it is they just change the themes. Now, any business or marketing classes will say that, if you have an inferior product, the way to get people to keep buying it is keep on changing the name. And you see this, I don't know how familiar you are, but I grew up in Chicago, the inner city of Chicago, and it's like, the drugs would have different names to them. So the way they kept on doing that, when the reason they kept on doing it is because it's such a lousy product, but you change your name, they think it's something new. So it's easy.
It's the same marijuana, just a different name.
Yeah, exactly, if that's your thing. But if you see now, they just have these same play experiences, but they're changing the names. The Wizard of Oz, the Willy Wonka games, the Superman games. And they license these names and these themes from these big companies. And when they do that, they're having to cut checks every year to like Universal Studios, or I think the newest one was Seinfeld has a game now, the Seinfeld game put out by Scientific Games. But the play experience remains consistent, so you're hoping to attract a theme, someone who liked the Seinfeld show or someone who liked Wizard of Oz. And the play experience is the same. If I have a ham sandwich with 10 pieces of ham and 1 piece of crap, I still have a crap sandwich. I mean, it's the same thing over and over again. And they'll call like Superman 1, 2, and 3 through Konami is doing that, and then the Wizard of Oz, and you have the Oompa Loompa, the Wicked Witch, which is all under the same theme that the gaming company can use, but they're diversifying their costs and cost averaging it down. So it makes sense for them to put out the same stuff with different themes and different graphics, but the play experience tends to be the same.
I'm so used to going into a casino to do my thing. I go to the poker room, I put my name on the list, I wait, I get my seat, and I play for how many hours I want to play. Well, a few years ago, I went to the EPT London, and at the same time was the ICE gaming convention going on. I attended that, and I was just blown away. I forget that it's such a massive industry, and all these slot machines, all these table games, all these things involving a casino. It's all out there, and it's just massive. And some of the things I've seen since then have been things like skill-based gaming, like a skill-based slot machine that plays pinball. What do you think about that? Are slot machines going the way of skill, do you think?
Well, I think so. One of the casinos that I have a pet, or one of the casino games that I have a patent on, and that's actually in a slot machine, is solitaire, Casino Solitaire. For anyone who wants to listen, you can play it for free online at casinosolitaire.com. But solitaire is a skill-based game, and it was so mathematically impossible to solve up to a few years ago when me and my partners figured it out that no one could understand how skill would apply to games.
I gotta stop you right here. Solitaire is a skill game?
Solitaire is a skill-based game.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Because you have all these different permutations, and which card can go where. You have two moves, two moves that you can make. Which one is better to make first, and things like that. So yeah, it is a skill-based game, and skill-based games in general are appealing to players because everybody wants to think they're smart, and the best way to be smart is try to beat something, right? And that's you get that in poker too. You want to play poker because the money's great if you do well, but it's to prove that I'm better than you. It's a skill of who's smarter, who can think sharper, who can understand the odds of probability better and better. And if you give people that opportunity, then they'll go ahead and attack that more and more. Now, if you remember Ed Thorpe, who developed card counting when it first came out, I mean, when the casinos figured out that Ed Thorpe's method could beat the casino, they immediately changed all their rules so his analysis did not apply anymore. But the casinos went dry. Nobody came to their casinos. But when they reinstated the original rules, the casinos were flooded to the point of where they were more packed than they were before the analysis came out because everybody thought they could beat it. And everybody thought it was possible. And for them, just knowing was enough to increase the revenue.
Well, I'm so glad that you told me earlier that 1 in 47,000 people can actually count cards and practice it and win at it. And I don't know how many times, the topic of blackjack comes up, and inevitably someone, or maybe 2 or 3 people say, yeah, I count cards.
Yeah, you can count cards. That's fine. I mean, but do you understand it?
Right, that's the difference.
You know how to apply it, and to the point of where you're not making foolish decisions and decreasing your chances of winning to go broke. It is not easy. It takes months and months and months of studying and learning and understanding. And then if you want to do count cards, anybody who has you have to have at least, I'd say, a $25,000 bankroll to make a couple grand a month.
Wow.
At least. And I mean, even then, you're playing 8 hours a day. I mean, how many people want to do that?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
if you
not
got a
easy.
9 to 5 job, push tough, you should try the $8 to $40 grind, or the $5 to $40 grind of an Atlantic City player. I mean, it's exhausting. The financial swings are traumatic, violent, and enough to try the boundaries of your own sanity.
It's the Alea Consulting Group at aleaconsultinggroup.com. Alea is ALEA. Before I ask you about the World Series, in a perfect world, in the next 10, 20 years, what happens to the casino resort industry to make it better for players and for the resorts themselves?
Well, it depends. It depends what they want to do. If they go to the way that they're continuing to go, then you're going to see a drift and a fade, and casinos are going to deteriorate, and people are going to go to the online realm. If they change their methods, they could go and return to the glory days. Now, a lot depends on people and what they do with their discretionary income. The United States right now is kind of undergoing a little bit of a renaissance. Hopefully, people are saying with the pro-business election of Donald Trump, cutting taxes, people will have more money. Will they choose to flush that money down the toilet at a casino that's terrible, or would they go and the casino change their ways to give people more value for their dollar? It's all up to them.
Interesting. AleaConsultingGroup.com. Nicholas Colon, our guest today. Nicholas, a big year for you. You went to the Blackjack Ball. You did very well there. And you went down to the World Series of Poker at the Rio this summer. What was that like for you?
It was interesting. I was credentialed, the press reporter, so I got to get inside a lot of different areas and see what was going on. It was definitely an exciting year. A lot of things were happening. Howard Leder came out of the closet, so to speak, and kind of apologized. No one really cares. A lot of people don't like him still. Jesus Ferguson did the same thing. There was a Nolan Dalla debacle, which kind of pretty much faded away. No one really cares about that anymore. Things in gambling tend to be very temporary. If there's one thing that I learned in gambling, it's your highs are never as high as you want them to be, and your lows are never as low as you think they'll be. So things tend to have a balance. They will go and continue on whatever path that they see fit. Maybe not the one that I would do, but in the end, you play the game as the rules dictate, and you adjust as needed.
Absolutely. Well said. Nicholas Cologne, thank you. By the way, you wrote an article on this whole topic of, the player casino resort relationship. Where can we find that if people want to go and read it?
Well, there's a new one out in the recent issue of Gambling Insider. It will be online probably within the next couple weeks. They drip their content. I do a lot of writing for 888 Casinos. I do a lot of writing with Gambling with an Edge, which is Anthony Curtis's website. And just Google Nicholas G. Cologne, and I'm sure you'll find it.
Absolutely, Nicholas. Thanks a lot, man. Good luck with the Alea Consulting Group.
Thank you very much, Derek. Have a great day.